But essentially, you got the first page of it, where I'm reflecting about Hurricane Katrina on the Gulf Coast where I used to live, and the devastation that it wrought on the Gulf Coast. And all of these familiar traditions and homes and landmarks were wiped away instantly. And I shared about how I ventured out on a walk along the beach. There's a scenic highway right there on the beach, and there are some really old homes, or there were. And so those were all gutted, and several of them were washed out with the tidal surge. There, I threw a little Mississippi accent on that one. Whoa, tidal surge, but it was more Texan. But homes were just destroyed. It was, of course, as you know, all these years later, so devastating and sad. And what I named at the very beginning of the pastor's report is that there were these stairs to nowhere. And so what I wanted to do is just show you an example. And this is years later, after everything had been cleared away for the most part. So the first time you went, there was still all kinds of wreckage of the home. But as you can see here, these stairs, there is no house behind them. The grass has grown in, and they're just standing there. I mentioned also that I was shocked to see not only those stairs, but also these oak trees that remained, and just you wouldn't have expected that homes were gutted and destroyed, but these oak trees were still standing. And this is just another angle of one of these homes right there. What I want to say, though, is that I found a lot of similarities as I thought about our church over the last couple of years, especially. And some of you feel, as I said, like those homes that have been gutted. A lot of people have lost a lot of things. Others, you might feel maybe not like you are a set of stairs leading to nowhere, but you might be more inclined to feel like you've withstood it. And I would dare say that most of us here in our congregation have endured a lot, weathered a lot, but have endured through it, rooted and grounded like these oak trees. It doesn't mean it wasn't hard. It doesn't mean you didn't suffer a lot. But you're still here, you're still going. All of those things, and some of what I mentioned in my sermon, it leads me to say that the state of our church is resilient. It's a different word for strong, I suppose. I think it's more descriptive of the moment for us. It requires a lot of us these days, the pandemic and its after effects, and as I see each of you wearing masks, the pandemic isn't over, too. One of the reasons I believe that I'm able to say that we are resilient in this moment is because we haven't given up some of the important things, some of our important values. Maybe some traditions had to wait, but we reimagined them. So we've not given up our inquisitive or inclusive spirit. We have adapted expectations along the way. How many times did we have mess-ups on Zoom and then in person, and here even today not having the right cables, and you've all been very flexible and adaptive. And as I said, we've reimagined our traditions by trying to remain faithful to our values. So our values, who we are, didn't change, but maybe how it looked, how we practiced that did change. So what I want to do for just a few more moments here, and this is the part that did not make it into the printed version of the pastor's remarks, pastor's report. I want to do two things. I want to zoom in, and I want to zoom out, and I want to home in, and that was upon both of those, thinking of Zoom church and worshiping from home. So I wanted to zoom out for a moment, and what I want to do with this, what I mean by that is I wanted to think out beyond us, beyond any of us. 100 years from now, the church of 100 years from now. I wanted them to know a little bit about us during the pandemic. So we're the church of 2022, the church First Baptist of 21 and 22. I wanted them to know that we have tried our best. And I'll say that's, been imperfectly and imprecisely and sometimes even impractically. But we have tried our best to be informed by our faith and by science, both. To be inspired by love toward justice, to be illuminated by kindness, and to be infused with courage and curiosity. Trying to interpret what it means to love our neighbors as God loves us. It's meant sacrificing familiar comforts, as you all are well aware, but maybe they wouldn't be. It's required us to be absent from this space for longer than we ever wanted or imagined. As I've said before, we reimagined different traditions. Even communion comes to mind, how we celebrated communion in our homes separately with whatever snacks we had. And it caused us, or we tried our best, to reevaluate our priorities along the way. A lot of things came our way throughout the pandemic, whether it was about health protocols or cultural upheaval around racial justice, around a very partisan and bitter moment in our election history that included an insurrection at the Capitol. A lot of things happened in these 2 years, and we've continued to reevaluate what we prioritize as a way to continue to be faithful to our values and traditions. We re-engaged our learning and advocacy around racial justice. As I mentioned, we even tried out our own lectionary, which we're doing right now, these 6 essentials of good life. I wonder, who knows what those are? I really do want to see if you would yell out what you know. These 6 essentials, go. Stories 1, yes. 5 left. Rest 2, 4 left. Community, yes, that was today. 3 to go. That's up. Generosity, yes, that's 4. There's 2 left. Don't worry, I have to look sometimes too, but who do we worship? God, yes. And then I just said it in one slide back, right there, the last word. Justice, yeah, that's the 6th. So God, rest, community, generosity, justice, and story are the 6. We have these micro practices, one of which I forgot to tell you about, but we have rocks here. I'll tell you later. And then, of course, corporate worship is macro practice. So we've tried our hand at those things. I want the church 100 years from now to know that we tried our best, and those were some of the ways. And then for the last part here, I want to home in and think with you as the current church, the church of 2022. As I said, many of you are like those oak trees. You have withstood and weathered much, but you are grounded in your faith and in your church community. You're resilient and determined to help us regroup and reinvest and rebuild the ministries of our church. Even so, I am seeing the effects that these 2 years have had on many of our leaders, on our staff, many of you in this room who may not have active leadership roles, but people are exhausted and discouraged and sometimes more disengaged than they'd even like to be because they can only juggle so many things at once. So I'm homing in on this one to each of us here because I want every single church member who is reading the letter or who is listening now to hear this. Whatever are the rhythms of worship and participation that you've grown accustomed to, either by necessity of health or simply comfort, please hear me clearly. We need you. Your church needs you. I need you. All of you. Rebuilding after calamity is not a one-person job. It's not a staff-only job. It's not just a council and team leaders kind of job. It is everybody pitching in. All hands on deck, as we might say in the South. It's all of our responsibility. So with that, I don't want to leave it as some sort of judgment. It's not. I'm trying to be real that I need your help. We need your help. So here's how I think you can pitch in as the letter sums up. And I hope you can see why I wanted to elaborate on this with you. I want to ask you to participate. You are all here. You are on the Zoom call now, and you are here present after worship, not yet even made it to coffee hour. You're here, you're participating. That's what we need. Participate in worship. Participate in serving others. Of course, as your health allows, but participate in person as best you're able. Serve the community with our opportunities with the outreach team. Minister to our congregation. You heard Sarah mention this, our moderator. I want to reiterate, our teams need reinforcements. They need help. That might be a way you can help. It might sound like a big burden, but you can also have some boundaries around what you can and can't offer. I want to ask you to continue learning about your faith, continue learning about this thing that we call church and Christianity, continue giving generously. We showed the budget a few minutes ago, and all of that extra is coming from an increase in the endowment. I want to challenge you. What if over this year we tried to get to half of that extra out of pledges? What are you able to give toward the mission of this church, toward the vision of this church? Is there room for you to give a little more? Or we can raise half of that extra in addition. And also participating by cultivating community and belonging. We miss each other, we're disconnected. We all know that. There are opportunities now and there are opportunities coming. So join in, please. My charge to you is this: insofar as your health and comfort allow, it's time to start making your way back to in-person rhythms of church. That's not a judgment. There were all kinds of cautions and protocols people needed to make for their individual families. But for the rest of us, it's time to get back to some of these in-person rhythms of church. The second way you can pitch in is to give. I mentioned this already. Give of your time. You know that one. You know this: time, talents, and treasure that we always say. Give of your time, maybe in service. Give of your talents, some giftedness you have, some skills you have. Give of your treasure, your finances. As I mentioned, let's try to raise some of that overage on the endowment ourselves. But I want to add a fourth one: your gratitude. Give thanks. Don't reach for the easy, low-hanging fruit of negativity. Everyone can do that. Anyone can do that. A lot of people are doing that. Stretch a bit higher, further, farther. Try some gratitude. Many of you are doing that too, but I want to add that when I think of ways that we can pitch in. You can give thanks as well. Give your appreciation like you did today to Andrea and to TC and to Courtney and Sarah and Phyllis and others. It's not to say to gloss over any issues you have. We got to deal with those too. But let's start with thanks first. Serve. I've mentioned this already. I won't belabor it, but As I said, our teams need reinforcements. You can serve within the church. You can serve outside the church. Our outreach team has some really cool stuff that they're wanting to do in the future. Joy, would you wave? Can I put you on the spot to at least wave? Thank you. I won't have you say anything, but Joy is the facilitator of outreach. Several of our outreach members are here. I see Pam, I see Ann, I'm sure I'm forgetting others, but people that really care about the ways we make a difference and impact in our community of Worcester. I even put a little pitch in there for deacons, but start the spread. This is not COVID, obviously, but enthusiasm. Spread the word about why you love FBC. That is another way you can pitch in. Maybe you can't go serve at the mustard seed, but you can tell your friends about why you love this church. It's really easy to talk about why you're upset with a church. Why do you love the church? Let's make it compelling for people. Let's remind people that this church cares about them, and if we've forgotten how to do it, then remind us too. Gratitude, think enthusiasm, think invitation. Those are the things that rose to the top when I thought back when we had some 200 people join our ranks over a period of a few years. Those were the things that kept coming to my mind. People were engaged with one another. They liked each other. It wasn't perfect. We're human beings, but people were grateful. They were enthusiastic, and they kept inviting friends and loved ones. This one, communicate, don't ruminate. This is born out of my own work with therapy, so take it for what you want. But it's really easy for thoughts to become sticky thoughts. It's really easy for a negative thing to cause us to spiral into more negativity. Don't let it happen. Sometimes it'll happen, and there are legitimate things. Don't hear me wrong. I don't think you are. I'm not saying to have all this positivity and denial of any challenges or disagreements. The point, though, is that healthy relationships are built on good communication, which also involves disagreement. It's not agreeing all the time. It's learning how to disagree. We are in this together. We're all people. We're all human beings. We're going to mess up. How do we fix it? How do we work together? Yes, so we're all family. We work it out. It happens when we're communicating, when we're listening and learning from each other, open to other perspectives, some humility and curiosity there. Ruminating, venting, gossiping. The scriptures actually talk about those a lot. We don't really harp on them too much. It's really easy. It's also really detrimental to your well-being. I promise you, gratitude and curiosity, humility, those really make a difference in your well-being as well. So the last thing here, life after these life alterations. So thinking about how impactful COVID has been, this pandemic has been for us. I was talking about Hurricane Katrina in these towns, and they were forced to regroup, they were forced to rebuild, and what is remarkable and noteworthy is that their values remained. It's hard to speak about a town in that way, I suppose, but the values of the people on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, at least, those remained, and they were displayed in how they rebuilt. And when I say I see similarities between that moment in time and this moment in time with this church, I say we're resilient. I see it. We have challenges. I've named them. Some people are like stairs to nowhere, and they've had to let go. There's only a few. The rest of us are like these oak trees that are rooted and grounded, and we have withstood a lot. It was shocking, the stairs and the oak trees, but also the flowers that were springing up through the foundations. Those surprised me. These moments that were glimmers of hope, of a future burgeoning. And that's how I feel about us. The church we want isn't possible without you. So when I say we need you, I'm being literal. The church we want isn't possible without you. So I'll say it again. We need you. Because the potential of God is teeming within each of you, within all of us. So it is time to get back to church, to community, to work. I say that to the church of 2022 and that future church of 2122 as well. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Brent. That's incredibly inspiring. So as we end today, I do have a couple of thank yous. One is I also want to say thank you to the Coordinating Council.